Hello everybody. Today we are discussing competence-based curriculum implementation in Lithuania. And me and my colleague Rūta, we are both teacher educators and researchers. We will share our experience with the competence-based curriculum implementation in Lithuania in recent years. And our history of education is very dynamic and there were a lot of changes implemented in our education in recent 30 years. So Rūta, what is our experience with competence-based curriculum when it was implemented in Lithuania for the first time?
So competence-based education isn't a new idea in Lithuanian education. Competence-based education was introduced into the curriculum for the first time 15 years ago in 2009. Since it was the first time, the direction of the educational community was twofold. Some teachers believed in this idea that competence-based education is a really very important issue of 21st century education. Others stuck to the traditional concept of subject-based education. 15 years ago, there was a real effort to give competence education in a proper way in school. It means teachers training, material, conferences, and as a result, competence has become more or less a natural part of general education.
And what were the main challenges implementing the key competences, generic competences at school? And are these challenges different now?
So, as the new curriculum was introduced only 1 year ago, we still have no data about the implementation processes, and we will see how effective it will be. But the renewal process itself was very different. 15 years ago, competence education was presented as the specific chapter in the curriculum, and a special publication on competence development was prepared. The curriculum has been reviewed with a different approach. First, very detailed description of each competence were presented, and the authors of the curriculum had to integrate the development of the competence into the subject curriculum. So now we have a separate chapter for competence in their development, but we also can find a lot of messages in subjects curriculum. Eglė, we have a list of 7 competences in the Lithuanian curriculum. Why these competences are important for Lithuanian students?
So these 7 competences, they are very much related to 21st century skills, and we believe that they will help our students to live a meaningful life, to find their place in life, to prepare for their employment, future learning and employment, and also to be healthy, to be self-confident, to be responsible citizens of the community, of our country, and of the world. And we can describe a little bit wider each of these competences. So communication competence is about creating, communicating, and understanding information using various communication tools and also technologies. Cultural competence is related to self-expression, to cultural expression, cultural awareness, and it is very important to be aware of your own culture and also of other cultures. Creativity competence is about exploring, generating ideas, developing and creating innovative ideas, innovative products, and also maintaining harmonious relations with oneself and with the environment. Cognitive competence, it is very much integrated into each subject. It involves subject, this academic knowledge, but also how to think, how to learn, and also how to solve problems and use different strategies of learning. Civic competence is about how to build and to maintain democracy together with others, and also how to be a responsible citizen of the statehood of Lithuania and of the world. Digital competence is about motivation and ability to use digital technologies, but also not only just to use, but also to use it safely, appropriately, critically, independently, and ethically. And the last competence is social, emotional, and healthy living. And it is about self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and also building relations with others, and about responsible decision-making and personal care for physical and mental health. And now we should talk about how to implement it at school level. So, Rūta, how schools should implement competence-based curriculum? So, at school level, at lesson level.
So, of course, it is a wide area for discussions, but at least we have 4 key principles that reflect the idea that competences should be a natural part of every subject. Here are the 4 key principles for development competences. The first one tells all competences are equally important. The specific of the development of each competence depends on the subject and educational context. Each subject prioritises the competences that are most important in the context of the subject. For example, in art subject, the most important competences are creativity and cultural competence, and of course others as well. And the last principle tells that outcomes of the competences are specific in curricula of each subject. The implementation of competence-based curricula is really challenging for schools. Eglė, do we know success stories?
Yes. I think that we have many success stories in Lithuania. And there are schools which started implementation of general competences even more than 10 years ago, during the first competence-based curriculum in 2009. And even 2 schools from Lithuania, they were included into the international study supporting school innovation and innovation across Europe, which was published in 2018. And the cases of these schools, they were related to competence-based curriculum implementation. And these schools developed like a whole school strategy, how to do it at all levels, starting from the lesson level and including the whole school level. And also these schools developed different, their own schools of the assessment of general competences, for example, like students' journals and some other tools. And I think that there would be much more schools like this. We would have much more examples if there would be more support for schools, more motivation for schools. Because at the moment our schools are facing a challenge which comes from our system of external student assessment, which is very much oriented towards academic knowledge. And it does not motivate schools to focus their attention to the development and the assessment of general competences. So, Rūta, do we have clear policies and clear strategies for the assessment of general competences in Lithuania?
So, the short answer should be no. But we do do not have a clear policy on competence assessment, but also there are some initiatives. For example, a year ago, the Ministry of Education approved assessment inventory, and in this inventory there are some issues about competence assessment. We also can mention some perfect initiatives from schools, and some of them described you. But to sum up, competence assessment is not blank, but it is a much needed development. The need for clear policy and assessment tool is demonstrated by the constant request we receive from schools and teachers. So a natural question is, what can we do? How can we support schools and teachers?
So I think that we really need to do a lot in this field. So firstly, we should motivate schools, showing them the importance of the development of general competences, and schools need tools how to assess it. And this is why we are working. We are all together in Compass project trying to develop tools for competence assessment. But I think that our teachers also need more support in formative assessment, which is the main strategy for the assessment of general competences. So I think that we have a lot of things to do in this field.
So let's do it.
Yes, let's do it.